So, hello, it's good to see you all. Thanks so much for joining us for our session on fall semester prep online. I see a lot of familiar faces, a lot of familiar names in the chat. So, good to see you. We've got a good group coming in. Um, again, thanks so much for joining us. I think I know a lot of you, but for those who don't, or maybe know me as Anna Young, I am Anna Everett, and I am the instructional designer in the Office of Online Learning. And what I want to do today is just share a couple of tips and tricks for getting started for the fall semester. First, I was just going to go over what I call the nuts and bolts of getting started with online for the upcoming semester. So um, most of the advice I'm going to give here is going to apply mainly to online courses, but I'll also point out some things that might also be useful to hybrid and virtual formats as well. So the nuts and bolts, just going to go over some easy things that you can do to get started and to maximize your prep time as we are coming up on the fall semester. And then next, I just wanted to share a couple of easy to implement tips and tricks that you can do today as you're getting started and thinking for the fall semester to start strong online and make a great impression, a great connection with your students right away when your course starts. And then throughout, I'm gonna pause every once in a while for questions, or if you want to see something in D2L, I'm happy to do that. I'll just switch over into another screen and we could do that. And then I'll also reserve time for questions and demo time in D2L at the end if you would like to see that. So first, we're going to start off with those nuts and bolts, just the basic administrative tasks that we need to get started for the fall semester. So when it comes to thinking about kind of the small technical changes and the small details, or actually really kind of big details that you need to attend to as we're coming up for the new semester, the musts here are really going to be importing content into your new shell. If you have a WebO shell, that's going to be automatically copied for you. Diana, our lovely Diana, is going to do that. But if you are copying your own content from a shell or from a previous semester, I just want to call attention to that as being kind of one of the first checklist items you might want to look at once the fall shells are open. Updating any Zoom links if you're teaching virtual courses, or if you're going to offer some optional Zoom sessions for your online course. Just want to make sure that those are updated for the new semester and provided in your new course shells. Updating dates, naturally, as we're moving into a new semester, you want to make sure you roll forward any dates from the previous semester for your assignments or any other items that you might have inside of your shell. And then finally, and most importantly, possibly, is updating your gradebook. So that's a whole can of worms that I'm not really going to open up here, but I did want to just point it out. We are going to have a open gradebook session next week on Wednesday at 11:20 a.m. If you would like to come and work with an instructional designer, we can work on your on getting your gradebook set up, because I highly recommend making sure you have all of your grade items in at the beginning of the semester. It's usually much easier to manage if you already have all those things set up on the front end rather than trying to adjust things at the end. So when it comes to importing content, most of you are pretty familiar with the process that we have at Nashville State, but I just wanted to add a couple of reminders. So if you have an MC WebO course, or if your shell is being copied from an MC WebO or WebO 7-week, that's going to be automatically copied for you. Diana is working very hard on that. If you have a virtual or an on-ground course, you'll be manually copying from the previous semester or from your master shell. And if you need any help with that, just send an email to onlinelearning@nscc, and we would be happy to help you out or walk you through those steps, because I know it can be just a little bit intimidating, that process of copying over an entire course into another shell. So if you just want to have somebody sit with you and just make sure that everything happens correctly, just let us know, and we'd be happy to help you through that. Just also wanted to share a couple of reminders as far as what our course copy timeline looks like and when you can expect to see your fall shell. So there was an email that Jamie sent out last week with all of these dates provided. So you're probably already aware of these, but just a reminder. So August 8th, summer grades were due, and also any edits to the WebO shells. So hopefully that's already happened. We are shooting to have fall course shells open to faculty. That's for the first 7 weeks, and 15-week semester courses by Tuesday, August 16th.
I want to emphasize on that. It's by Tuesday. We're trying to get
By
them done
Tuesday.
by today.
By
If we
Tuesday.
can't, no, by today.
Oh,
Like
by today.
if it's a 3-day process, and the problem is that usually we have 3 weeks between semesters, and this time we only had 2 weeks. So um, we're trying to feverishly to get it done by the end of today. So as soon as it's up, I will send an email out to all faculty and adjuncts that fall course shells are ready. But that's what we're pushing for.
Wonderful. Great
Thank
news. Okay,
you.
so it might be even earlier than the 16th.
Yes, we were like, at worst, it'll be Tuesday, because we're as long as everything goes through correctly, everything tests through correctly, it's all working, then we're trying to get it up by today. So that's the goal.
Awesome. Well, that is really exciting. So hopefully by today. If not, look for it next week. So once
Someone's at the front doorbell.
one moment. Sorry about that. Apparently someone is at my front door. So once you're in your fall shell and you're looking at that, I know when summer started, a lot of people went into their new shells and they were like, "Where are all my students? There's no students in my class list." That's because students will not be enrolled into the course until a little bit later. That's going to happen around about August 20th. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, Jamie. That's around when student enrollment is going to import from Banner. So just a couple of days before the semester actually starts, which is August 22nd. And that's when students will have access. So faculty will have
Right.
access maybe today. Students won't be able to see it until 8 a.m. August 22nd when the semester begins.
And I think that's the new purge process they're trying to test out, so it's more efficient. They don't purge unnecessarily. So yes.
Yeah, but just be assured your students will be added to your course shell. They just might not be in there Tuesday or by end of day today. Certainly not by end of day today. So, and then also just be advised that August 22nd, your first 7-week courses are going to be available if that is, if you're teaching in the first 7 weeks. The second 7 weeks will come a little bit later once we get closer to that time. If you are manually copying your course shell, you're copying from a previous semester into your current shell. Just a reminder, if you're going through that process and you're thinking to yourself, where is my course? I can't find it in the search. Make sure that you are in fact enrolled in that course as Banner teacher. So if say you're wanting to copy from a master shell and you're not the course lead, more than likely you're just not enrolled in there as a Banner teacher. You can only copy from a course where you're enrolled as Banner teacher. If that's an issue, just send an email to Online Learning and we can make sure that we get the content you need copied over. Once you copy over, just make sure that you re-enable any of those external learning tools. So any of the external tools are going to have to be just enabled again, and it's usually just a one-click process. I know, especially with Turnitin. With Turnitin, it's just a one-click re-enable Turnitin on all of your Turnitin assignments in the Dropbox. Similarly, if you're using proctoring tools like Respondus or HonorLock, you'll just have to set those up again once you copy over. And any third-party tools such as external publisher websites that you have integrated into your shell, you will probably have to set those up again. As you're aware, if you're using those publisher tools, you usually have to create a new class and link it with the current semester shell. There was a form that went out for requesting to have widgets added or external tools added. That goes to Diana. If you missed that, just make sure to send a note to her. She's the one who's able to add any.
And we can enable
widgets.
after the course copy too. So it's not a huge
Yeah.
deal. But the purpose of the list is we're just trying to coordinate to make sure the correct master gets copied to the correct version of the course, and then everything's up to code. So because we're with all these different course types and new masters, we just make sure we have a correct list that for those automatic copies.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, if you forgot or you missed the form before that that August 8th cutoff. Not to worry. If you're using an external tool,
We have a
more than
hand
likely
raised.
more than likely it's something you'll need to link to that semester shell anyway. So if it's not the master course, it's fine. Yeah. I'm sorry, I don't know your first name. Is it Shu Li?
Your audio is
Shu Li
not.
Zhang?
We don't hear your microphone. You may need to type your question in.
Yeah, I'm afraid we can't hear you, but if you could type it into the chat. I do have the chat open in front of me. If that works better for you. No, sorry. Still can't hear. Yeah, and that goes for everyone. If you have a question, feel free
you
to put
can
it in the chat or raise your
type in
hand
the
at any
chat,
time.
and I can try to answer it in the chat as well. So
Sure. Yeah. Jill, did you have a hand up? Or
No, I did not. I was
oh,
just
okay.
trying to help
Oh,
out
okay.
there.
I'm sorry. I'm imagining things.
No.
Okay.
Well, I may have raised my hand, but it wasn't to ask a question.
Okay, great. So we'll just we'll circle back in case you get your question in the chat, Shuli. So back to manual course copy reminders. When it comes to setting dates forward, you can do that manually. You can go through your assignment Dropbox or through your quizzes, and you can change the restriction dates one by one if you'd like to do that. I think you can also bulk edit that for most of those tools in D2L. You can also, if you're copying from a previous shell, you can offset dates. There is an offset date option as you go through the steps for import, export, copy components that you can use, and you can set forward all dates a particular number of days. For instance, it just requires a little bit of calculation, figuring out how many days are between one semester and the next. But that is an option. There's also a manage dates tool inside of Edit Course. That you can also use to kind of bulk edit all of the dates inside of your course. Additionally, some of you probably know this, but if there's just one thing that you want to grab from a course, you just have, one Dropbox or one set of instructions that you want to grab and pull over into a course shell, you can use not select all components. I've got the wrong thing on this slide, but I think it's import select components to copy just some of the items from another course. So you got the option to copy everything whole cloth, or you can do just a few. So either way, you should be able to do that. All right, we got a couple of questions in the chat I'm going to attend to.
I got them
quickly. Oh, thank you, Jamie. Okay, would anybody like to see anything on this slide demoed? Would you like me to walk you through the import, export, copy components steps? I know a lot of you are familiar with it, but just in case, or the offset dates or select components. Happy to switch over to D2L and just walk through an example.
I remember during the just to share an experience I had this summer, I copied certain components over from a course that I was teaching that I teach every semester, and I didn't realize that I did update some of the dates, but for some reason they didn't show up. But my students very quickly said, "Oh, this is September the 28th," and then I realized that what I had not actually gone in and edited, like I had changed it, maybe unchecked it or something in one place, but I didn't take it out in another. So it was more complicated than I had realized. So then I went in there when they told me the dates were wrong. I went back in there and I edited and changed it fine. But I have to remind myself that they can see things sometimes that I'm not. I mean, I can see, but I might not be fully aware of when I'm looking at a course. For example, one of the way to edit a course was way over to the right and kind of in a corner. And I did not realize that I had not changed that, even though, let's see, I didn't go in through that way. That was the problem. I went in through the course and changed it that way. So there were like multiple options, but I just didn't realize that. I don't-
I was just pulling up the manage dates tool. This is kind of a neglected tool, I think, because it's just
Yes,
buried in the
yes.
edit course area.
Most
This is
definitely.
this is where you can see all the dates in your course, and you can actually bulk edit them or bulk offset them, so move them forward by a certain period of time. So this can be useful for just getting a quick snapshot and making sure, like I'm just looking here, and for some reason there's some stuff in here that's in 2005.
Oh yeah, I mean, so much
Yeah.
quicker this way.
Yeah, so that's I encourage you all to explore this tool, and because it might be a little bit easier than going one by one from assignment Dropbox, setting all of those, and then the quizzes and setting all of those, and so
That
it just
makes
might
more
be a bit more
sense.
efficient.
Yeah.
Let's
If you
go back.
can you go back to, oh, never mind. We had a question. We had a question from Karen of like, what is the other date
Oh.
column used for?
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. No,
I
you
was too
clicked
slow
it
on
as soon
that.
as I saw it.
Okay. The other dates, I do not know off the top of my head, and I'm looking, and I'm still not entirely clear on that because it's completely blank.
I think they just wanted to fill up the column there.
Yeah, who knows? Well, with this survey, there's a report, and there's a report view released immediately. So maybe if it's something like a survey with a report that has some kind of time-based release, it'll appear in that column. But as far as I know, that's I think you're mainly going to be wanting to focus on the due date, start date, and end date for most things. All right, so we'll go back to our slides here. Great questions. The tool used to change all dates. So if you're copying from a previous semester shell, as you're going through that process, there is an option to offset dates. So just keep an eye out for that. It'll be an option to just move forward all the dates by a certain number of days. If you go to the manage dates tool and edit course, say you didn't offset dates when you were copying, go to manage dates, and then you can bulk edit them. So we just saw that big table with all of the dates in it, but at the top you can click bulk edit and you can just rapidly change everything you have in your course all at once. Is that helpful, Aisha? Yeah. Thank you, Jamie, for dropping that in the chat. Yep. That's where we want to manage dates, is where we want to go for that.
Yeah. Very helpful.
Great questions. So if you have a virtual class or you're teaching on Zoom, just a reminder that, again, you're going to want to set up your Zoom meetings for that class. We don't automatically create Zoom meetings for virtual classes. That's something that we ask the instructor to do inside of their own NSCC Zoom account. And it's pretty simple to do. All you want to do is log into Zoom, schedule a recurring meeting for your course, and then share the link with your course. So once you go through the steps inside of zoom.us to create that recurring meeting, there will be an option at the end where you can share a meeting invitation. And what I usually just do, I just copy and paste that into a news item in D2L, like we have pictured here on the slide. Or we maybe copy and paste it and send it as an email once you have your class list built out, just so you can make sure all students did in fact receive that Zoom link. I think this is pretty familiar to most, but would anybody like a walkthrough on how to create a Zoom recurring meeting for a course or share it inside of D2L?
That's a great idea, though, copying and pasting that into the news. I think I sent it in an email last time, but that is a great general way to share that. Yeah.
Yeah, you can do it either way. You could even make a content item and just copy and paste it and have it on a page. That's like, click here. This is the Zoom link. Would anyone want to walk through creating a recurring Zoom meeting, or are we all pretty good on that?
I think I am.
Okay, good. Just wanted to offer, just in case.
We all should be Zoom experts by now, I think. At least
Okay.
a little.
Okay. All right. Well, we're Zoom experts, so we'll go on. As for other housekeeping items, just a couple of things that you might add to your checklist as you're working through your prep. Maybe take a look through your course content, proofread, make sure there aren't any glaring spelling mistakes or outdated information that you have anywhere. Especially if you're revising your syllabus, you want to make sure you've updated it to the current semester, that you have your updated contact information, your updated information about how to schedule a meeting with you. Hyperlinks. I highly recommend, if you have a lot of hyperlinks and a lot of external links in your course, just go through and click on those. Make sure that they are still linked to what they are supposed to be linked to, because sometimes links get broken, especially during the course copy process. You'll probably
Yeah.
see this broken topic alert if something has gone wrong during the course copy process. And then videos too. So when you are copying over, if you have Kaltura videos, want to make sure that they all actually did copy over. Sometimes they end up being broken links as well. Good to just hit play on some of those videos, make sure they're still functioning, click on your links, make sure they're still functioning. And Dr. Doty has a question. How can I help you, Dr. Doty?
Real quick. So I've got a whole bunch of links, all of us do, in our syllabus at the end on all sorts of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's not in our syllabus. It's what we're required to have in there on ADA, and I don't even know what all of them mean. I've been putting them in there for years. So how often are those links up to dated? And if I clone it from the Weibo, are they up to date? Is I guess what I'm trying to say.
So if you're copying, we have Online Learning has created a student resources document in our course development template. If you're copying that, all those links are up to date.
Right.
That's kind of our most up-to-date version of all of that information. If you're copying from the Weibo, I'm not entirely sure. You might not have that in there, but we can get together and I could just, we can get together an individual consult and make sure that you have the most up-to-date information and that all of your links are functioning.
I've done both, so thank.
And the website updates, or as far as national state, they don't change very often at all. So those should be okay.
Yeah. As far as like the basic information, it should all be working, or it should all be up to date. But
Yeah, outside links though, frequently in history, like from one semester to another, I've found that they have limited accessibility. Like I'll use them one semester and then the next semester, if it's a history YouTube video or something like that, they'll say this content is no longer available and I'll have to go find an updated version. So any outside links are subject to being limited sometimes.
Yeah, that's a great point, Jill. YouTube videos too. They can disappear at any time. Yes, Dr. Doty?
I was not talking about outside. I was talking about Nashville.
Yeah.
So Jimmy,
I got
that
you.
is all the different, oh my goodness, all the different things and whatever you just said, Anna, that one place now instead of so many different ones. Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, when marketing launches their websites later on this fall, then probably there'll be some updates and changes, but that'll be communicated and we'll get everything updated when that happens too. So just kind of keep that in head right now. So there'll be a new website design that's coming in December is when they said. So we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, but we'll make sure everything is updated. And they'll keep it as consistent as they can when they build that website, but we'll double check everything as well.
Great. Thanks, Jamie. And thanks for those questions, Dr. Doty and Jill. So yeah, just basic things. Make sure your videos are still, playing, your links are still working. Hidden items, make sure they're visible. If you see that I with a slash through it and you don't want to see the I through the slash with the slash through it, that means that students can't see it. You may want to make it so that students can in fact see it. And then also hide things that you don't want students to see that are maybe outdated or that you're not going to use anymore. Or say you have a schedule for your second 7-week course already loaded into the shell. You can keep it there. Just click that visibility icon and make it invisible to the students. Publisher content, we already kind of touched on this, but anything external or third party, just make sure that it is still linking correctly and that it actually corresponds to your objectives and what you are doing in the course. And then finally, we definitely encourage you, if you have time and you're looking for places to improve your course, maybe take a look at the Ally scores. So I think everyone is familiar with these. You've seen the red, yellow, and green icons inside of your course that will pop up next to your documents. Just, if you have some time, click on those, read the guidance, see what the tool is recommending for improving the accessibility of those documents, because oftentimes it can be just a really simple formatting change, like adding headings or something like that. And if you have any questions about anything that Ally is flagging, feel free to reach out to me or anyone at Online Learning, and we would be happy to assist with formatting your documents for accessibility. Any questions so far? I think we've had a couple come in, so we might be good at this point. Okay, in that case, now that we're kind of past the nuts and bolts and the basic kind of checklist items, I just wanted to share with you 5 easy tips for starting the semester online. Just some very simple things that you can do up front in your online course to help make sure that you are connecting with students, that students know who you are and how to contact you for help. I think that's probably the most crucial piece of this. And that I want to talk about and share some tips for doing that in your online course. So those 5 tips are create an inviting introduction, getting off on the right foot, setting a good first impression right from the start, getting to know your students and knowing who you're teaching, especially in an online format, setting weekly routines, providing a clear structure, and of course, I really advise that you make D2L work for you. Get to know the technology. Put it to work for what your purposes are. I'm sorry, Karen. Were you saying something?
No.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm
Oh, you're
stretching.
good. Oh, no problem. So with that in mind, I just wanted to get a couple of faculty responses, and just put this question to you. So when you think back on the courses that you've had in your own life, during your own education or your own training, what are the things that most stood out to you, when you're starting off the semester? What are the most kind of memorable and important experiences that you remember from your college courses or from your educational training?
Well, I'll go first. I have
Sure.
probably had a very diverse background, and I've worked in museums and taught at public school level. And I think one of the very most important things you can do the very first day, and I use D2L for this, since we're doing virtual and online now, but is to send, post, engage your students to help them feel that they can succeed in this course. Like the very first day, they need to know that, you have expectations, but your job is not to fail them. It's to make them feel included and help them to be successful at whatever they want to do. Because I have found that students re-enroll in other classes that I take just because of that first day impression.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Dr. Doty, did you want to add to that?
Well, okay, what do I remember is, like all of you guys, something we no longer have, and that is the instructor. I don't remember
Yes.
the first day of any particular, I don't know, concrete thing about management law. No. I remember the instructors, but we don't have instructors anymore. We've got everything on web. They have no earthly idea who we are. I do not know. I am so happy to go to graduation every year to see my students for the first time ever. And it just, I've been around to a long time, but without a doubt, it is the professor. And once again, even Zoom, I'm having students that are doing the Zoom driving. Now, how in the world is Zoom
Yes,
driving?
I have
had that
students doing that.
That's my
Yeah.
2 cents.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're spot on, both Jill and Dr. Doty. It's the instructor. And I know that's the case for me too. I don't necessarily remember everything that I learned in every, random biology or college
But
algebra
you
class.
remember the ones
but
that
I
you feared and
remember-
hated.
I remember the professor, and I remember the connection that we had and the relationship that we had.
Yes.
Yes, Gail?
For me, it was approachability. I
Yeah.
had some instructors who were very approachable, and I felt comfortable having conversations with them and discussing different things, or just getting clear understanding. And then I remember the instructors who I was like, they just weren't approachable. It was like, oh, I got to figure this out.
Yeah.
So that
Absolutely.
approachability
Right.
was important.
Mm-hmm. So important. So it's the people that are important. It's the professor that's important.
That's right.
Have you ever heard the saying, you don't remember what people say and you don't remember what people do, but you always remember how they made you feel? So
That's
I think-
exactly right. That's
I
a
think-
first day great thing.
Mhm. Yeah. So I think that definitely applies to online teaching. And it's what we have to keep foremost in our minds, even in online. And I'll push back against you just a little bit, Dr. Doty. We do have instructors, and I think it is possible to make a connection with students online with just a couple of with just taking a few different approaches or a different technique to doing that. So yeah, everything that everyone has said, I think, is so important. You want to make it, you want to create you want to appear to be approachable. You want students to know how to contact you. You want students to know that you're a person, because oftentimes in online courses, it's possible to forget that when there's a screen that's separating us, that there is a human on the other side of the screen. And so just taking the extra effort at the beginning to make that clear to students and make it clear to them that you are there for them and that you are a person who cares about their well-being, I think is so important. Yeah, Dr. Doty.
Well, I add to that. I think, Jessica, I see you're on. I think you're the one that led me towards this. On my web courses, I also Zoom, and I open all of my web courses to the Zoom and tell them when to show up. Of course, they would not have. They wouldn't have signed up for it because they probably had some other conflict. But I do, and I am in Zoom for the web students also, and that is I give them in the syllabus and in the news of D2L when they could certainly show up. Don't have to, but if you want to hear and see what this is all about, and I have had quite a few students that really say, that was all the difference in the world, or whatever that was. So you're right.
Yeah. If you're able to offer optional Zoom sessions, you can't require students to come if it's a fully online asynchronous course, but you can set up some separate Zoom meetings. Like, say, I'm going to be in my Zoom office at this particular time. Come in if you have any questions, or if you're working on a big project, maybe we can, I could look and see what you're doing, or we can go over it together. I think that's so helpful to have just an opportunity to see each other face to face, even if it's on Zoom,
Yeah.
and connect and have a conversation.
At least an introduction, I think, is good if you're, for the first day, maybe just to, let them see who the instructor is and relate to them. If you're going to meet totally on the web, I think an introduction on Zoom surely would be a great idea. And then subsequent meetings if necessary.
Absolutely. And if they can't make it, you could record it and post it
do
as a
it
video in your
literally.
course.
I do it literally, open up the Zoom lecture course to the web students, period. And I'm talking about the whole semester. And that, Anna, you just said something that I do want you to do, and that is show me how you did the recording. I see it going across the bottom of the page. I can't remember how to do that.
Sure. Yeah. So when you are in Zoom, there is a toolbar at the bottom of your screen. In the center, there's a big green share button, and there is also a record button somewhere. It says record, and there's a little circle icon, and that's how you start recording a meeting. I believe. I don't have it right in front of me because I'm currently recording, but I think it's somewhere in those Zoom settings in the toolbar at the bottom of your
Yeah,
screen.
it's on the bar at the very bottom. I can see it on mine.
Okay. Yeah.
It's right by the share screen icon.
Yeah, and that's if you do have that introduction, you know, if it is an online asynchronous, like I said, you can't really make students come to Zoom meetings in that case, but you could always just record it and then, you know, put the conversation into your web shell so the students can see what they missed. Yeah, Dr. Doty.
So
And I think
just-
Dr. Doty, I think they email you that at the end of the class. I think they email you that recording,
Mhm.
like in a link.
Right. Okay, so I just clicked on it and help me out. The student can also record on their own. I don't have to do it, or do I?
They can record on their own, I think, unless you have disabled recording.
Yeah, I think you have
Um,
to enable that feature.
Okay.
Yeah. But we are also recording this session, and we'll be sharing the link
Well, I'm
afterwards.
not worried about yours as much as I am mine, and that is
Yeah.
just click on as long as I have. You're saying it's automatically disabled, that they cannot record it, or and that I've got to go in some way and say yes, you can record it, or can they just click on as I did with yours just now, and it says record and it says, do you want to record it yourself? No,
I think.
get permission. It says.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oftentimes, I think you'll have to ask permission of the Zoom meeting host. But I think I feel like there is a way deep inside of the Zoom settings to allow participants to record. That's something I would have to look into a little further. And if you would like to get together with me, Dr. Doty, I can walk you through exactly how to record a Zoom meeting and share that link with your students afterwards.
I've already been asked that for this next week. So
Mhm.
Yeah, I think the host just has to enable it, and I don't think it's that difficult. I think if you're the host, I think you just have to go into the settings and enable them to record it, I think.
Yeah. But I love this conversation. I love all the great ideas everyone has been sharing about the importance of availability and first impressions and the relationship between the instructor and the student. I think these are all wonderful points. And I think especially the point about making a really welcoming introduction is so important. It's something that we can so easily do even in an online course. I mean, just to illustrate the importance of creating a kind of welcoming atmosphere in your online course, take a look at these two pictures. Which house seems to be more welcoming? We got one on the left that's a little bit run down, the paint's peeling off, the grass has grown up. On the right, we've got a neat white picket fence. Which house do you think is more welcoming? Which one would you rather go up and knock on the door?
I'd go to the one on the left, but that's just me.
You just like ghosts, that Jamie. You just want like ghosts.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one on the right, definitely.
Yeah. And I mean, I agree. The one on the left is beautiful in its own way. I like, abandoned buildings. I think they're neat and cool. But just taking a look at this, which one would I rather knock on the door? Not too sure if anyone on the left is home, for one thing. But I'm pretty confident that someone would answer the door on the other hand. And the same principle applies to our online courses. We want, when students come and knock on the door and they see the course for the first time, we want them to feel like they're being welcomed in and that there actually is someone home and there is someone there to answer their questions. And that's my entire point of showing those things. And it all goes back to what we were just talking about in terms of making that connection right away. I mean, aesthetics, the aesthetic look of your online course matters a little bit. But especially the tone that you're setting in that first impression, in that first welcome news item that you put in your course. And I've got a great example here. I have to credit Kirsten Bush with coming up with this. I like to highlight what online instructors we have here are doing really well. And here's an example of what I think is a really great welcome news item. This is the first thing that students see when they come in to her educational psychology course. What does this introduction do well, do we think? What do we like about this?
Well, it addresses some of the questions that students have, issues, I guess I shouldn't say questions, about whether or not they're going to be able to pass the course, or is this something they're going to be interested in learning about, or what is the instructor going to do to get them engaged? This is really good. I like the way she makes it. It draws them in with questions.
Yeah, right away. The hook here is the questions that are immediately relevant to the discipline. Ever wonder why some teachers are able to get students to participate appropriately, but others can't seem to control the classroom? That's that speaks quite a bit about what's going to be covered in the course, and also how this is going to be applicable to the real world when they go out and they're actually teaching in the classroom and they have to grapple with these problems.
Anna, it was the color for me. That was
The
the first
color.
draw.
So she
And some of
has
the text is in different colors. And then after being attracted to the colors, I read the questions.
That's a good
And
point. Yeah.
so the questions were thought provoking.
Absolutely. I think there's a good use of color here. The color it has sufficient contrast to still be accessible, which is important when we're thinking about developing online content. But it's also it also helps to highlight what are some of the more important points that are happening here. So highlighting managed productive learning environments, growth and development, learning theories, assessment techniques, really calling attention to what some of the core the core topics of the course are going to be. Anything else that we like that's done well here?
I think it also just has a positive vibe. It's sort of the welcome at the very beginning, and not a huge fan of overdoing exclamation points, but I mean, I think it's very positive, just the way it sort of introduces the welcome to the course at the very top.
Yeah, it just simply saying welcome. I'm glad you're here. I think that's so important. Another thing I think that she has done really well at the bottom, she has introduced kind of the problem. What's the problem here that we're going to address? We're going to talk about through this course. And she talks about what the course is going to cover. And then at the bottom, in order to get started in this course, please click on content on the navigation bar at the top left of the screen. So just immediately telling students how they can get started, where they can find what they need in the course, because not all students are necessarily familiar with the D2L learning environment and maybe just need a few pointers to know where they need to go next and what they need to do next. So I think that it does a really excellent job of drawing students immediately into why this course is important, saying, hello, welcome, I'm glad you're here, and then also telling them how to get started right away. So this is just a really great model example of creating that kind of welcoming, what a really good welcome message could look like.
The language too, and she said ever wonder. So automatically, you have to turn on that part of your brain to actually think about it and reflect.
Right, yeah, exactly. A Meet Your Instructor page is also a really great way to set that tone right away. And again, we've got another model example here from Cliff Rockstead. So what do we think this instructor does well in terms of presenting their introduction? We don't have to read the whole thing, but just kind of first impressions.
Well,
And the fact that there's a picture included, especially if it was a web class and you may never, sort of meet your instructor in person, it's nice to actually put a face to the name.
Yes, he has a picture. And like Dr. Doty was saying, oftentimes he doesn't see his online students until he goes to graduation. He sees them for the first time. And it doesn't have to be like that. If you have a picture or a video, just showing your face, putting a face to the name, that can help students, again, get that sense that you are a person on the other side of the screen and get to know you better. Yeah, wonderful. Anything else?
I think it's interesting to get to know what a person's background is. I've had several of my students, I do the same thing here, but I post, I guess, a page. I don't have a separate page in D2L, but I do an instructor bio. And they've said, oh, well, I didn't know you did this or did that. I'm interested in that. So they like making a, potential, connection with you through a common hobby or something like that. So it's great to be able to have access to that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's a good idea to kind of share what your educational background or your professional accomplishments are, just so students kind of know what your expertise in the field is. But also share your hobbies as much as you're comfortable with that, because that could be a potential point of connection with some students if you're both really into cooking or really into running or something like that. that's a great way that you might start a conversation with a student.
Mhm.
Yeah.
A little 2 cents for you guys to know Cliff. Cliff's kind of retired on us. He's adjuncting. He moved
Mhm.
part of him and his wife. He's up here a lot and all, but he is adjuncting. So we're gonna miss Cliff Rockstead there.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, he is retired, but he's still teaching a few courses, and he's still kind of with us. But yeah, and he did a wonderful job on this introduction. Other things here that are really good, he tells students how to get in touch with him. You can't see, I didn't include the entire thing because it was kind of lengthy. I couldn't fit it all on one slide. But if you go down to the bottom, he tells you his phone number, his email, how often he checks his email, and when students can expect a response. It's very helpful. All really good things to include, just so students can get a sense of who you are. Another really great way that's super easy, I promise, is to add an introductory video. A picture is great, but a video is so much better because then students can really see, who you are in your everyday life, and just get a more of a sense of what kind of instructor you are, and feel more comfortable maybe reaching out to you and talking to you. And it's super easy to do this. If you don't want to go through the whole rigmarole of like recording something in Zoom and sharing the link and record or putting it through Kaltura, which we will talk about on Monday. We will go through that whole rigmarole if you come to our workshop on Monday on a recording video for course. But if you just want to do it in one click, you can, using the Insert Stuff button that I know all of you have seen in many places inside of D2L. It's in that you can create a news item and Insert Stuff, or you can create a content page, Insert Stuff, and there is an option inside of Insert Stuff called Add Video Note. You click that, it activates your webcam, and you can just shoot a really quick video. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. It could just be in your office, something really kind of casual and informal, just saying, hi, welcome to the course. I'm your instructor. These are some of the things we're going to cover. Please read the syllabus. Just kind of basic things like that, as a welcoming message to your students. So I highly recommend that for just very quick, casual welcome videos or conversational videos of that nature. These are captioned as well, so you don't have to worry about that. Any video you record with the Add Video Note will be automatically captioned. But that's a really great thing that I recommend for setting your introductory tone. You could also create an icebreaker discussion board. And I know a lot of you already have these, usually something to the effect of, tell us who you are, where you're from, what kind of your educational interests are, your career goals are, and share that with the class. And that's great. You could also integrate multimedia if you want to. I think sometimes we forget that students can also record audio and video and add it to their discussion posts. They can insert images into their discussion post, again, using that Insert Stuff tool. That Insert Stuff tool will let you plug in pretty much any kind of multimedia. So feel free to welcome students to maybe add that, because that's a really great way to also get to know your students. Other instructors here have used tools like Padlet, which is a kind of interactive note board where students can add their own notes. So if you're just looking for a more interactive format, Flipgrid allows students to record videos and post them to a discussion board. I know Kirsten Bush has used that quite a bit, and some of the other instructors in the education department to great effect. Or maybe at the conclusion of a discussion, you take what everybody's talked about, say you have a question about, what are you looking forward to this course? Create a word cloud out of that and maybe prompt further discussion based on what your results are. Here's just a sample icebreaker discussion idea that I saw. This is from Dee Maduli Williams on Twitter, just demoing an activity that she had done with her students called What Would You Hold?, where students take a photo of an object in their hands, one that has some kind of sentimental value to them, and share that and use that to start a kind of icebreaker discussion where students can get to know each other and get to know you. Other ideas, some of these we already talked about, is hosting optional Zoom meetings. And again, for those online asynchronous courses, maybe recording them and putting them into D2L for those who weren't able to participate. Creating a question and answer discussion board along with your introduction discussion. Maybe have a question and answer discussion board, especially for students to use in those first weeks where they maybe have a few questions about the syllabus or something isn't clear about what they're supposed to do next. That's really useful for staying in touch with your students and making sure that all of their questions are answered. And it's also really helpful because if they have general inquiries that might be relevant to the rest of the class, sometimes you'll see students jump in there and they'll answer each other's questions. So it can be really useful. The example we have here on the slide is from our own NS Online instructor training, where we have a Q&A session, and that's been really useful because we have instructors posting questions there, and then it can kind of generate more discussion among instructors who are maybe having similar issues. Same thing with your students. I have a list of icebreaker activity ideas that I've developed, and I'll share with you. That's linked here for just some ideas that might get you started on coming up with a icebreaker activity that gets students engaged with the content of your course or with getting to know each other right away. Our next tip is set weekly routines. Both for yourself and for your students. So it's really important to provide a communication plan and to stick to it. We saw that Cliff had a communication plan in his instructor bio where, just to keep himself accountable, saying, this is when you can expect a response from me. This is when I'm going to provide feedback on student work, just so students know what to expect. Having a weekly routine is highly advisable. So say you've got a discussion every week that's due on the same day. You've got a quiz every week that's due on the same day. That can be a really helpful structuring tool, just so students are staying up to date with the course content, because in an online course, we know students can very easily fall behind without having kind of the rigidity and the regularity of in-person class meetings. So just having a weekly schedule that they can very easily follow can be really helpful for making sure students are staying on track. Excuse me. As for communicating, I like to have a communication schedule for myself. So if you know what your weekly assignments are in advance, you have kind of a set routine. You can try to send out a news post or a class email every week, just keeping students up to date with what is coming next, just giving them a reminder of what they can expect to come down the pipe next. And usually I think a reasonable goal is to post one news item or one class email per week, just to show students, that you are staying active in the course, and that you're kind of setting the pace for them. When it comes to setting weekly routines, you can use your week 1 content as a really great way to model those routines that are going to scale up through the course. So if you're going to have a discussion and a quiz every week, maybe you have a discussion and a quiz in that very first week, just so students know what to expect, and they can also get comfortable with the technology involved. So if they've never posted a discussion in D2L, just so they have some practice doing that for your icebreaker, and then maybe a practice syllabus quiz or something. And then throughout the semester, you can kind of scale those up as you get further along. Providing structure. So I like to think of the course layout itself as a really great way to actually build out the structure of your course. So using the modules and the submodules within D2L, it's a really great way to make sure that you're staying organized and providing a structure that students can move through. Really recommend using descriptive labels. So if just so students know exactly where they're at. So if we're working on module 1, that first exam, module 2, second exam, that's one way to organize things, so that students know how they're moving through the course. I like to think of it as chapters in a book as well. So those are just good sort of organizational tips. And then finally, make D2L work for you. Don't work for D2L. I know, easier said than done. But D2L does have some really neat tools that you can use that will make your job easier, because I know we are all stretched for time, and anything that can make our jobs easier is entirely welcome. So with news items, you can actually draft and schedule those in advance. I don't know if everyone realizes that, but if you know if you already have your weekly routine set up, you already have your due dates for all your assignments set up, and you know exactly when they're going to roll in, you could just go ahead and if schedule some of those news items in advance. Schedule them to post the week that that they correspond to. Yeah, Dr. Doty.
Yeah, I've been told that students leave D2L up, and the very next time they get in, it goes back to the last page, and therefore they seldom go to the news item or the first page. You following what I'm saying?
Yeah, I am. I think that there's actually a setting that they must have turned on if that's the case, because usually D2L, when you refresh the page or you reopen it, will take you back to the home page.
Okay, okay.
If not for the course, then the home page for when you first log in.
The D2L. Okay.
Yeah. But the news items are on the homepage of the course, and that should be where they're looking. They also get notifications whenever there's a news item posted. They're notified within D2L. A little orange dot will pop up on their notifications bar. So they should be aware of that just from that. Other ways that you can make sure students are seeing your news items, and this ties in really well to our point about making D2L work for you, is you can have students download an app called Brightspace Pulse. It's in iOS or Android, both. So they just download that app, and then they're able to log in into their courses on their phone, and they can also get push notifications on their phone whenever a news item is posted. So there are multiple ways to make sure students are being notified that there is a news item, and then they need to go and read it.
What was that again? Brightspace Pulse?
Brightspace Pulse, Pulse. Yeah. So it's just an additional way you can make sure you're staying in contact with students and that they're keeping up with all the updates that are important to them. Yeah, thanks, Jamie.
I have another question that I saw on a previous slide about the some of the web courses that I have. We have a course lead who writes those. Sometimes they have the response, the lockdown browser. And I've gotten emails from students saying, I can't download that. I don't know how to use that. It won't let me in my exam because it says I don't have this. Is there a way to disable that? We don't have to use it, do we? I mean, is that required? Like for exams and things?
We don't require it as far as online learning it goes.
Okay.
I don't know about your department or your division.
Oh, okay.
But you can disable it by just going to the lockdown browser settings.
Okay.
If your course lead has put it in there, there's probably a reason, so you may want to check.
Just okay. Well,
Yeah.
I noticed that it was on some of the courses that I've done, and my students had trouble with it. And so at one time, I know in history, which is my field, a couple of the other professors suggested that we disable it. But then I'm still seeing it when I copy the course over. So I wasn't really sure, about if we're supposed to have it or not supposed to have it. Is it something that the student has to download?
When they go into when they go into a quiz or exam that has lockdown browser enabled, it's going to prompt them to download the lockdown browser software if they don't already have it. So they shouldn't miss that. It's not going to let them start the exam until they do that. And there is a link there for them to download it. Now, were any of those students by chance on an iPad?
Yes, and a couple of them were living in remote areas up like in Charlotte, and they had sketchy internet. So downloading a file was actually a problem for them. So I think that was one of the reasons that I had to end up disabling it. But it's been a couple of semesters ago when I had to do that. But when we first started, I think with the virtual classes. But I'm still ongoing, have students who have sketchy internet, or they're on their way home from work and they're logging in on their phone for class. And I've had different, I've had the driving virtual, like Dr. Doty was saying, where students are logged in on their phone and you can see them obviously getting in and out of their car. And so they have issues with when they have to download things for the course sometimes. So
Yeah.
They definitely shouldn't be taking a test while they're driving. That's
Well, no, but I've had a couple of them, say, yeah, they shouldn't be. You're right. You're right.
Yeah,
But I've
and-
had them tell me that they had trouble with their internet and just couldn't download large
There's-
files, and I didn't know what.
well, it's not a large file. It's
It's
not.
not okay.
No.
No, it's like an update for the browser or something like
So
that.
it's like
That's all.
turning it on and off. I mean, it's pretty easy.
Oh, it's absolutely easy. So
It's
basically,
very
how
easy.
you could prep students by doing a practice exam or something with using Respondus, just to have them
Okay.
test it out to make it work.
Okay,
And
good.
then kind of explain like, okay, you're taking an exam, so whatever your test window is, and then having test prep of like, you'll have 1 hour to take this test between Friday and Sunday, and use a quiet space, like find good internet, like have them prepare for a test so they can be successful, so they're not. And then
So what
once
is
they,
it actually preventing? Cheating, or is it?
yeah,
prevent-
Yes.
it'll record them taking a test, so you can see who's cheating and who's not cheating.
I
And
see,
It
I
will
see.
auto flag those things as
So
well.
it's like it's a video actually.
It's virtual proctoring, so yeah, they'll
Okay.
be recorded, and it's for exam integrity. So
I see.
so we can help you kind of set that up in a better way for your students to make sure that it's more successful.
I mean, I have allowed them to take their tests and even use their notes, and it didn't seem to make that much.
Well, yeah, it depends on how you. It depends on the parameters of your
Well,
test.
history is a
totally,
lot
so-
of contextual stuff, so
right.
it
You can build
doesn't seem to
you can
matter.
build exam without proctoring and still make it robust, even if they use notes, because they won't
Yes, that's
they
what
won't
I
have
do.
time to look up
Yeah.
everything. That's the thing.
Right. That's what I do.
Okay.
As well as with going back to D2L and toggling between the lectures that I post. They don't have time to do that. So
Yeah,
if
yeah.
they don't know it, they're not going to pass anyway.
Yeah.
But I
So-
just I was curious about the the lockdown browser, if that was something.
Basically, the lockdown browser literally locks down the browser, so they can't
Okay.
open up a new website, a web page, or anything.
Look up
and,
anything on
You
Google.
can't
I
open up
got you.
Wikipedia and just
and
Google everything.
It also
I got you.
it also uses the webcam to record them taking it as well.
I
So
got you.
They're
I got
they're not going to cheat. Or if they do, they'll just be blatantly caught.
They'll be seen. They're looking
Yes.
on their phone. Okay.
Correct.
Mhm.
I got you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and
Clarifying.
and Jill, I'm happy to get with you and look at those settings, and maybe we can work on the messaging for your students just so that they are prepared with, say, like a practice exam, and just knowing what they need to do before they get to the point of taking the exam. I just want to say we are past our time, everyone. It is 2:03, so if anyone needs to go, feel free. We're really at the end, so we're really just getting to kind of wrap up in questions. My last slide was just advising turning on intelligent agents, which allow you to send out automated messages to students who do or don't do certain actions inside of the shell. So if they don't turn in an assignment, you can send out a message that will go to all students who didn't turn in the assignment, just saying, hey, I noticed you didn't turn in the assignment. Please do. So this is a great time-saving tool. And it's also a great communication tool because it signals to students, that you're paying attention to their progress. Even if you're not doing all the manual work of keeping up with what all students are doing at all times in your course. Just having these kinds of messages set up can start a conversation with students who are maybe struggling or need a little bit more attention. And we do have a workshop specifically on intelligent agents scheduled for Tuesday. I forget what time exactly.
11:20.
Yeah, at 11:20, if you would like to learn more about setting those up, because that can be a little bit of a deep dive.
Did
Um,
y'all do that last semester? Because I think I did that one.
Yes.
The
I think we
automated-
did. I think we
you
did.
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah, so it's a repeat, but we just like to promote that tool just because it can be kind of neglected, but it's also, I think it's so useful for instructors, to keep in communication when you have hundreds of students potentially. So we like to promote it, and I love
Yeah,
talking about
For
it.
sure. It was a good workshop. I remember.
Yeah.
Very useful.
But that's it. That's all I have. So do we have any further questions or anything that we would like to take a look at in D2L for those of you who have time to stay?
Can you just remind me of what the function is for the Brightspace Pulse?
Sure. So Brightspace Pulse, it doesn't have a lot of functionality. Not gonna lie. So students can't they can't use it to take the course. They can't go in there and submit assignments through Brightspace Pulse or interact with much in there. It's mainly for notifications and for the calendar. So if you have your calendar set up inside of D2L, when there's calendar items that are coming due, it will send them a push notification that'll show up on their phone saying, hey, assignment due soon. Or news items. If you post a new news item in the course, that'll show up as a push notification. And, you know, for students who maybe primarily use their mobile devices, that can be really useful. And then they don't have that excuse, Dr. Jody, of saying that because D2L redirects them to to a certain page, they didn't see the news announcement. They should be getting the news announcement, and they should be getting notified of it either inside of D2L, or if they have that app, it'll notify them right on their phone.
And students can also opt into notifications via text message. So there's
Yes.
a place in their profile that actually they put in their phone number and they can check what notifications they would like to receive from what course.
And I will show you where that is. What Jamie is talking about, students so students have to download Brightspace Pulse on their own. You'll just have to direct them to do that.
Yeah, that's just an app somewhere.
And then also to set up their notifications, you'll have to tell students, hey, go do this. This is a great way to get notifications on their phone. So these are SMS notifications or text message notifications. You can set them up for yourself too. If you click on your name and then go to notifications. Oh, you can also download Pulse from this page. Well, there's my number out there for everyone. But you can set up your mobile number and just associate it with D2L so that you're getting text message notifications, the students getting text message notifications, and then you can select what you want to be notified about. And
So
probably
you
most
would want to
everything.
choose, no, well, you would want to choose what you would want them to check. So probably news items, maybe
yeah.
updates on deadlines for Dropbox or something like that. Probably if you check all of them, they'll just keep getting notifications.
Yeah, they might not like that. ePortfolio, not many people use that. Grade item, I'm sure they would like to know about that. Due
But some
dates,
of
2
the
days
major
away.
like due dates 2 days away, like new items available, those kind of things. So it's fairly helpful for those who actually want to opt in to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that, so that's just kind of creating multiple points of communication, you know, both inside of the web browser, the course shell, and then also with students' phones and their text
Yeah,
messages.
because the Pulse app and this text notification, they kind of do the same thing. So it's one or the other, whatever the student preference is. But it's good to have choice.
Mm-hmm. And Jessica just added a great point in the chat. The Pulse app, I believe it does show grades as well. So and they get notified when they get a new grade, and then they can see what that was, I believe, inside of the Pulse app.
Also, I'll just mention the Ellucian Go app allows students to connect to all kinds of things at Nashville State, and including it'll link them to our D2L.
Oh, good. Okay, I hadn't heard of that. Would you mind dropping that in the chat for everyone? Ellucian? Yeah. Great. Yeah, thanks for that recommendation. Any other questions I can answer before we officially wrap up?
To do with nothing real quick, Anna. There's an entirely different house I made a picture of. Only the women know what this is. This is Anna's house. It's got green gables up in Prince Edward
Island
in Canada now.
Oh, lovely.
Wow. House of Green Gable.
Very cool.
Anna, I have a ton of questions. This was
Sure.
very helpful today. I'm not gonna ask them now, respecting everybody's time, but I'm gonna be emailing, okay?
Great. Yeah, please do. Please reach out to me. I'm anna.everett@nscc.edu. You can also reach me and the other online learning staff at online.learning@nscc.edu. And, you know, just remember, we're here to help for any questions you might have. But thanks so much for coming. And looking forward to the fall semester with all of you.
Jessica.
Yeah.
Does it have Droid capability?
Yeah,
think
I
it has
just,
Apple in there.
I put